Well, hello everybody. I'm glad that you could join us for class. I'm going to start sharing our screen. My name is Mikeworth. I am your hostess today. And thank you so much for joining us. We are here with Miss Tony Harris from Project Secure. And just going to kind of get in right away to our class. We had some technical difficulties today, but we're not going to not get to you. So if you have questions, I will always put my phone number in, and we will kind of get right into class today. The class that we are working on today is called Job Skills. It's one of my favorite classes. It is the most meaningful that we could share with you because it brings out the largest amount of lifetime wealth for you, for your family, and just overall well-being. Everyone that takes this class, you're going to want a pen and paper. This has an enormous amount of information in it, and that enormous amount of information will start to get you to think about your own future and the things that you want to do for you. So definitely get yourself a pen and paper, and you'll start kind of a list. And that to-do list is going to be critical for you in how you move forward. Sometimes people, this is a real class. It's kind of the down and dirty on job skills and how you can create more wealth. I'm a financial person, so that's really a big deal to me, is you having access to more of your own well-paid skills. And this is the person in this picture is my friend of mine named Fortune. And one of the things that she's taken this class many times, and she often will say to me, "Oh, I don't like anything you're saying, but I'm going to do it anyway." So even if you're hitting resistance, even if you're like, I don't want to do that, just think about it, write it down, and you may want to just do it anyway. Your homework in advance. So when you look at the homework in advance, that you'll want to think about why you're different than anybody else in the marketplace, right? There's lots and lots of people that don't have a job right now. There's lots and lots of people that really need work. They want to move up, that there's availability coming. So you got to figure out what are the top 10 reasons you would hire yourself. So those can be lots of things: that you're on time, that you're smart, that you are good at problem solving. I would start to kind of give yourself on that to-do list, right? The top 10 reasons that you would hire yourself. The largest market share change that's coming into the market for the next 5 years is that you'll see a lot more smaller companies hiring. They are actually a large part of the growth that's going to be here in the future. So you really want to think about the reason that you are profitable for a company. What makes you a profit center for them? How can your skills bring the company benefit? Because you are an asset that they are hiring, right? An asset is something that pays you money. You are an asset. And so that asset, right, what are you going to do for that company? And they're going to pay you for that. And you would like to negotiate the highest pay that you can for being an asset for that company. You're going to give them your time. You're going to give them your smarts. Most people are spending an enormous amount of time at work. And I would look at, do other people have the advantages that you do? Are there things that make you kind of a step above? Have you had an education? Have you had certain kinds of training that very few people have? This is a really big deal in the technology field, right? That some people have learned types of coding that makes them have an advantage. Some people know old coding, and that gives them an advantage. So, think about what you know, what the systems are that you have learned. And how many years have you invested in your personal growth? That's a really big question, and I get a lot of pushback on that. Have you taken the time to get an education? Have you given yourself classes on YouTube? Are you doing other things? Like, what are the things that you are doing every day to invest in you? Because you are your largest asset. And the last one is actually the largest one that everybody can kind of work on right now, which is who is in your network. right? Does your network show your experience? So as a community leader, do I know other community leaders, right? Do I know other advocates? Do I know other healthcare providers? Who do I know and how do I know them? That's the real big question you should be asking yourself. Who do I know? If it's just a friend network, they may not be the most profitable to you. You've got to get to know people that don't look like you, that have different jobs, because you are your largest asset. And that part I take really seriously, because learning how to job hunt, learning how to transition, learning how to be upwardly mobile in your career is worth an enormous amount of money. And it's worth money, not just to you, but to everyone around you. Now, this is a statistic that I didn't make up, that it's from a hiring center, which is that the average person, and this is for a multitude of reasons, but the average person stays about $20,000 a year underneath their actual salary range because they're comfortable. Some people stay there because they like the mission of what they're staying there for, that they actually forego that because they want to work for a mission, or that they didn't continue their education, or that they're under networked. The problem with that, and why I always am pushing for you to make even $1 more an hour, because $1 for a full-time person is really $2,000 in a year. So when you start to look at that, what does that mean? What does $20,000 mean? It means that, you know, what would you be valued at if you were $10 higher, right? So when you start to look at that, look at what you can do. For the average person, that loss is $600,000 over a lifetime. So $1 an hour matters. It matters a lot. When we look at the difference between somebody taking a $10 an hour job and a $15 an hour job, it's 50% more pay, right? It's not $5 more, it's 50% more pay. It's $10,000 more dollars in a year into that family. So when we look at the conversation around why a livable wage, it's because it's needed every day. Now, what's interesting is this only gets worse the more you make. So if you are someone that's making over $50,000, that as you go up, that range will change. The average executive, and what I mean by executive is somebody that's over $70,000 in a year, they are often $40,000 behind, but they're comfortable, or they got their kids to raise, or, you know, I don't want to change, or I like my work buddies. Well, it's $1 million loss if they don't realize that gain. So yes, it's nice to keep the same job. Yes, there's benefits to the company that you have. Yes, there's benefits to the lifetime work. But again, who really pays the price? And in class, this is what I usually do, is I stop the share right now and I make everybody raise their hand and go, how often had you ever asked somebody for a positive review of your work from your coworkers or your peers, right? How often are you actually asking for what you need to be able to move forward? Those recommendations and reviews are going to be critical for you. If you have not come on to LinkedIn, this is a critical tool. So if you are not on LinkedIn, you need to be. I would put that right on your to-do list, because it is a way to have somebody be able to see all the jobs that you've had. It's a way to ask people for a recommendation of your work, and ask those from, you know, and they stay digitally on that file so they can see them. It is also a place where you can showcase differently. Digital is critical. This is not a job application world anymore. You know, people aren't just going into the door and going, can I write an application here? It is an online system. So you need to be able to start a really basic resume. And a basic resume is, you know, you can Google search that. And they're free. You can kind of just fill them in, and you have to learn how to do a PDF so that you can send it in mail and not have it get all wonky, right? So that's the expectation, is that someone has a resume and have a resume in PDF form. And you're going to have a base resume that's different. So a base resume is all the stuff that you kind of put in there, like a career document. And that base resume is going to have kind of all the stuff that you've done, whether that be for fun, you know, the skills that you've learned. Sometimes people just have done things that are just super interesting. I was looking at a resume the other day, and one of the things that they noted was that they were an Olympic contender. So that's very interesting, right? That says something about that. So I would keep that base document either in a Word file or a Google file, and then you're going to kind of work that all of the time. The other thing that's interesting right now is that many interviews are done online. So, you know, be aware of where you're at. You know, how are you going to be able to take that interview? Are you going to be, you know, do you have internet access? Can you stay in the interview? You know, nothing is worse than being panicked that you can't hear the other person or that your phone went out. So, you know, think about that for yourself. The other reason that I like online tools is that it's an opportunity for you to share your work. And being able to share your work is so critical. This happens to be the work of Miss Tony, and this is a student that we were celebrating with because she had gotten out of the homeless shelter and made a huge step forward, right? So a lot of times we are using video, and the job force centers have these tools for you. So they'll actually help you do it right down there. So I love that about the job centers. So, and when they're open, they'll do that again. But, you know, let people showcase who you are, what you do. Let them see you before they meet you. Is there a way to show, right, what it is that you create in the world? And this happens to be a picture. Miss Tony is also with me during things like this. This happens to be Project ELF. It's where we take people out of the homeless shelter and get them into housing, and we make all of their dreams come true. We bring in furniture and resources, and it's this big, huge, it takes thousands of hours to make this huge surprise for somebody. We do 1 to 4 of these a year, right? So online tools will be able to help you create the story about what's interesting about you. What is interesting about what you do? Many of you are perhaps going to be working with a nonprofit. So in a nonprofit, what you want to look at is understanding. This is also more of Miss Tony's work. This is out of the McKnight Center. But what you're going to want to look at is, what is the community that you help build or interact with? That is the critical question in all nonprofit work, because all nonprofit work, right, that people are moving around through is serving someone or something. So you have to be able to understand what is the community that you're building with or that you are serving. HR, for everyone, when you're going through this, they know that you're looking to increase and expand. It's not anyone's expectation that you take less money. It's not anyone's expectation that you stay the same. They're trying to buy an asset, and now you're it, right? So they're trying to find the best fit for the best price, but they are expecting that you move forward. If you are in a job that earns more than $50,000 in a year, you are going to absolutely need a job coach. That just applying for a job is sometimes just ineffective. And so you'll want to look at a job coach. This happens to be Kathy Paper sitting with me. She runs lots of job things, but she is the classic at networking. So a lot of times you can go in and just meet with a job coach and just have a 90-minute intake. So she and I do a lot of executive work together. And that range can be anywhere from $85 an hour to $225. Some headhunters, they they say they're free, but they're actually just going to charge the person that hires you. So the difference between that is that a job coach is actually helpful for you all the way through your career, whereas a headhunter is really there to say, let me place you right away. Let me place you right away, because they're going to get their paycheck. That job hunter is really there to get you, pay, position you, and they're going to get paid from the company. Whereas a job coach is really there to say, let's work this resume, let's look at your job pieces, what can it look like? This is an example of the work that I do. This is a product coach. You know, how do we take somebody and make them a product, right? And so this can be any amount of money, right? That this is how we go through and go, look, this is what we're going to talk about. Here's what you do. How do we build that business model? So some of you may have small business ideas, and you may not need a job coach. You may need a product coach. And some of you are the actual product. This is Trina Bowden-Fields, and she is living in, she lives in Rio de Janeiro right now, but she was here in the United States, and she is there to train other actors. And so, you know, how do we do that? How do we train the trainer, right? So sometimes you are a product coach. A cohort. A cohort is a group of people that are all working together for very similar goals. So a cohort is when they usually come together once a year. Sometimes they're a cohort based on education or learning skills. I love cohorts. So if you haven't seen a cohort, known a cohort, it may be very helpful to you. This happens to be a small business cohort that I host every year, and to say, look, everybody's going to come together. You're all going to learn together. You're all going to kind of pick a project, and then you get the benefit of everyone else in that group. Now, out of this particular group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those people have built businesses that tripled in a very short amount of time. So that's sometimes what a cohort is there to do, is something else. I'm going to use Shakina as an example for you. Shakina is somebody that took the advice that I'm giving today of you've got to think about your future differently, because you are the best, the important thing in your future. Like, I can't tell you enough. You are the biggest asset you could possibly think of. When Shakina came to class, her annual revenue was about $22,000. So over her whole lifetime, she would be making about $770,000. So the ad was, let's take some mentorship. Let's add some education. So that took her about a year. So she actually lost the $22,000. She didn't work as much, right? She took the education and went into an industry that she had never considered. She went into mortgages, and she decided that she was going to work for the only Black-led mortgage company in the state. And so that was a big deal. So her entry-level position there was $42,000, a huge change in what she was making. But that changed her lifetime earnings. Even if I take out the year of income and I take out the amount that she had for the cohort and the other education, she still ends up with $1.4 million more. I mean, $1.4 million of lifetime earnings, over half of that. So she's doubled the amount of benefit for herself, her family, and her ability to help her heirs. She's old enough to have grandchildren. So one of the things I want you to really think about as your to-do list is really making a job skill map. And it's actually super easy. It's really just to go, okay, right? Remember we said, hey, what are the top reasons you'd hire yourself? You're really just going to go through and look at some of those skills, just make a list. And then you're going to kind of start to build a map that flows outward to go, well, what are the other jobs that have this? So if you have accounting skills, what are those? If you have cashier skills, what are those? If you know how to count things like inventory, what is that? If you've been trained in certain systems, right? Even if you know Excel or Microsoft, Google is really what's going to help you with your search. This is the person in the background here is me with someone named Amy. And Amy is, I think, the most amazing person when it comes to being able to Google search, right? So she is somebody that really found 2 of her last jobs by really looking for companies that worked in the types of things that she wanted to. That she had come from a tech industry and realized that she wanted to make more changes with her technical skills in healthcare. So what are the healthcare places that will get you that? This is another success story from PICA. You know, how do you start? You can start today. This is Joyce, that she is standing in front of Mary's Place. You may recognize it, but again, everyone can create a network, even if you are in a homeless shelter. That we got her out. That's one of the things that Miss Tony did, is it went and got her a computer. That she had to be able to job search. She had to be able to write a resume. There are tools. These are lots of advocates here. That it doesn't matter where you are today. That if you have a phone or you have help, you can start building and you can start your networking today. And you want to. So when you start to look forward, right, job skills are also really, what are the benefits that you're looking for? And what are the positive, you know, and why are you leaving your old job, right? So why are you leaving where you were to go to where you are, right? What are the benefits that you're looking for? And that's not just physical benefits. Our next slide will go over the physical benefits that I'm going to ask you for, but it may be that you have the ability to learn new stuff. Sometimes that people just want to go into another industry because it's interesting. Is there something that's interesting to you? Do you want more opportunity? Do you want to meet different people? Are you just excited about something, right? Some people are really interested in electric cars. Some people are just interested in how you make honey. You know, some people want to do farming and some people want to work in the IDS. So think about the benefits that you're working for. Sometimes that's an hourly rate. Sometimes that's the ability to leave and come as you go, as you want. But then there's the benefits that you need, right? That healthcare, it's mandatory. You're going to need healthcare. How is that going to happen for you? So when you're looking at jobs, you're looking at what are the things that you and your family will need. Do you need healthcare? Do you need paid days off? Do you need daycare? Do you need education? What are the things that are there? The education gap was so huge in low-wage workers that legislation came in to be able to help huge companies to be able to give more education. And to be able to give more education is a critical tool. So you saw places like McDonald's start giving scholarships. You saw many, many corporations decide that they had to invest in their people, even if they aren't going to stay there. But their workers had to get something. And when people go to school, when you take on new skills, even if they're not for that employer, you become a better employee. And that's because you're learning skills. Show and share with care. Now, before we get into how they're going to interview you, one of the things I remind everyone is whatever it is that you are doing online is public knowledge unless you decide to protect it. So 56% of employers said they are very likely to look at social media, and they're going to look at 100%. 56 are going to look at their potential employees before they hire them. Now this next slide is, and here's the caveat, right? Here's what you should know. However, there's some employment rules. Can they really look at that? Yes, they can. But there's also an anti-discrimination law that says if you know, did that social media, did they learn things about you that they couldn't have learned by a normal hiring process, right? So if they had met you, you know, is there things that they learned that they couldn't have learned any other way? They're not allowed to do that. But are they allowed to go, oh, what are you doing? Sure, absolutely. When you are dressing for a job interview, remember, you're dressing for the job you're there to get. You're not in a best dressed contest, right? You're interviewing for the job that you are getting. So if you are going to interview as a construction worker, dress like a construction worker. Make sure that they see that you have boots that will work on their job site, not flip-flops, right? So dress for the job that you are applying for and that you will be doing. Every interview, this is where I would kind of give yourself the cheat of what can you do today? What can you do while you're standing in line? What can you have running through your head that will help you move your life forward? Is know these 3 questions, because they're in every job interview, right? Tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work for this company? And why are you looking to make a job change? So figure out what it is that you want to answer. You're going to get 1 shot at those. So really start writing it down. Tell me about yourself. I'm this, right? I'm a public leader. I'm a math geek. I'm never going to get tired of math. And I'm looking for places that will help me do math better, right? Why do you want to work for this company? Because you guys love math as much as I do, right? So, you know, why are you looking to make a job change? I thought I would learn new skills, right? So start writing it down, keep a note on your phone. They're really helpful. One of the largest changes that has happened for those of you who have been in your job for more than 15 years, job interviews have changed drastically. Many of them are actually behavioral interviews because very few people are working independently anymore. Most people are being hired as part of a team. And that team lift has been the largest change in our education system, in our college systems, and in our workforces, is that they're really looking to see how you will behave with others. So very rarely are they hiring you to just do this one job. They're hiring you to do a job with other people. So they're really looking for behavioral interviewing. And it's based on the premise, right, of how can we predict what you would do? And so they'll ask you a question, right? Tell me about a time when you faced a difficult situation. I have heard this question in interviews brought up more times than I can shake a stick at. And what the person interviewing you is going to try to understand is, how are you answering that question? Right? Are you not sure? Are you telling a short story? Are you telling a long story? What are they? But what they're looking for out of behavioral is they're trying to figure out how you think. How do you solve? Because they're trying to put you in to a team. Not because they're trying to rate that you're the smartest person on the ship, but how are you in a team? How are you going to perform on that shift? Can you be a manager? Right? And they're looking for those strategies and the tactics that you can use. And they're going to use specific details. So, you know, this problem happened, I assessed it, these were the determinants I made, I invited, I told, right? And this is kind of how we did it. And then, you know, we just kind of kept moving, right? So think about that. Your body language is so much more relaxed when you've practiced. So, you know, you want to be comfortable in your own skin. You want to wear clothes that are comfortable, they don't scratch. You want to be in a happy place, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So when you start to look at, everybody knows that you're going to be nervous and fidgety, but it may, when you're fidgety, it makes it feel like you really maybe have something to hide. So they just don't know what that looks like. So you are also, if you're trying to get your breath, to try to kind of get through that, you can just go back and ask the interviewer a question back, or to go, hey, can you help me explore what you really mean by that question? These are sample questions that I have seen probably in every HR department that I've ever worked with in 20 years, which is, what type of the questions are they going to ask in a behavioral interview? And that is, right, tell me something, tell me a story, right? They want to hear what you're talking about. They want to hear how your mind works. They want to get a feeling based on your storytelling about, right, what are your capabilities, right? Have you ever not been able to meet a deadline? Have you ever dealt with somebody who's angry or upset, right? What's your reaction? Because again, you're an asset. They're hiring an asset. So the more that you understand the ways that you personally are an asset, the more money that asset will command. And the more skills that you have learned to be an asset, the more you will be paid. So by knowing these questions, these are also perfect. They're perfect to be able to just punch this question into YouTube and to see how other people are answering it, right? Tell me about a time you had to sell an idea to your colleagues, right? Tell me how you pitch an idea. So all of these things are available to you every single hour of the day for free. Every single hour for free on YouTube. So you can just go through and start looking at those interview questions. Interviewing has changed. It changes drastically every 10 years, but it changes kind of a lot in 5 years. So even if you've been in your job for more than 5 years, you should be looking at what is the ask for it now. And even though behavior-based interviewing isn't the only style, it's not perfect. It isn't the end-all be-all for all types of recruiting, but it is a tried and true method. And it really helps people gather information on you based on how you present yourself, how articulate you are, what you understand, how you just know when someone is speaking their truth, right? And when they're speaking their truth, that's what you want to hear. So when you're telling your stories, no drama, you're just gonna tell them about, your explanation, right? Tell us that, that you are here to better yourself, you want a better future, you're here for higher earning potential. It doesn't have to be this dramatic, crazy story of, oh my gosh, I came out of Mars and blah, 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 blah. No, you don't need any of that, right? But it will be also okay for you that if you really like the job and it doesn't pay enough, it's okay to just ask for more. That every job has a hiring range. So that brings us to money, right? Be clear, right? Because you are an asset. You are an asset. That company is hiring you as an asset. And it is your responsibility to know why your skills are worth what they are and why they may be worth more. So I'll give you an example that someone asked me. They had said, wow, your rates are really high. And I said, why would you say, I put it back to them. Why would you think that somebody who'd invested 22 years into their career wouldn't charge more? Right? Okay. Who do you want at the door? Why is somebody going to pay you what you are worth? Right? Why are those skills worth more? And I'll tell you, some of those skills that are worth an enormous amount are being able to not react, to be able to just keep your cool when things are crazy. One of the things when people ask me about what am I great at? I'm great at being sane when things are insane. And that part is fantastic. right? Everybody understands what that means. The other thing about money is I would read the job description and the skills. Lots of companies are writing job descriptions that are just totally garbage. And the skills that are attached to them, they think they want those skills, but that's not always the skills that they really need. So read the job description. Many times I have actually sent a job description back and said, this is actually the job description of a different job at a different pay rate. We would love to apply, but it's actually a director position and not an advocacy position. So sometimes it's really understanding what's the job description, right? And what are the skills? And even if you don't have 100% of those skills, it doesn't mean you can't apply. And then we have the skills that you've used in real life, even if it was not a job. So some people are really good with children, but you know what? I am awesome with 3-year-olds. And the reason I'm awesome with 3-year-olds is because I've been around them a lot, right? I had a pile of them myself, and I've had a lot of grandchildren, and I've worked at, lots of volunteer opportunities with 3-year-olds. So if that's something that you're great at, whether it's your job, whether it's something you do in community, whether it's something that you've just learned as a skill at home, remember, just talk about, you want to add the skills that you have actually used. If you're a great driver, if you're an alert driver, that there may be skills that you have that they maybe didn't know. So, what it is. As you're writing your list, kind of at that side note, right? That's where I kind of want to just take a breath and go, okay, let me go back to that, right? The skills you've used in real life, I would definitely put that on that list that you have of, what are the skills that you use in real life? Okay, but the next one is going to be, how do you show it off? This is where people are just almost having a ring fight with me on, is how am I going to show my skills? And sometimes it's very different. This happens to be Shelley, who was one of my assistants. And she was really a well-known esthetician. She's a private esthetician. So she doesn't want all of these new clients. She only wants a very small amount of clients that pay her extremely well. So she had to really go, well, how am I going to show my skills? I mean, this is what I have. So we went through and I said, well, tell me about who you're serving. Tell me about your clients. What are you doing? And what the reality was is that she specialized in people who needed their skin to look flawless. And the people that needed to have their skin be flawless was the Miss America contest at the time. So, that these are people who are pageants that are looking for print photography that have to have their skin look flawless. And so even though she can't show how she's a good esthetician, she can show what the outcomes are or the other types of clients that hire her. So as we kind of go through this, right, as I kind of start to wrap us up in today's class, I just thank you so much for even considering how you can build your own life, because those resources are so critical and they're available to you. And even just taking a moment to pay attention, it's a big, big deal. So I want to just invite you to start putting on your list that you need a support team. That who are your people? Who are you going to talk about when you get a job? Or what kind of jobs are there? Nobody does this search alone. Nobody. So you're going to need a buddy. You're going to need some other people. You will need testimonials. And LinkedIn is the place to do that. So you can send somebody an email to be like, hey, can you tell people about what it was like to work with me, right? You will want to network. It is critical. If you are someone that is in an executive position or a leadership position, you must have a top 100 list. And every executive has one. They have their top 100 go-to people of how is it going to work. So if you do not have 100 people in your network, there's your assignment right there. So the other thing that I remind people about is always send a thank you. And sometimes a thank you is saying, thank you, I'm not interested. Thank you, I don't think it's a fit for me. Thank you, I would love that position if you could come to my money requirements. So there are lots and lots of ways that you can say thank you. I would love to work with you. I really value the leadership, or whatever it is that you're going to say. But a thank you is a big deal. And this is where I kind of break it up and have everybody come back to class. Because we're online right now and it's just a recording of this, this is actually where we're going to end. So what I do want you to look at is, right, I hope you took lots of notes today. This is your list. I would start to look at your list. I would take a breath. Oh, because this is an enormous amount of information and I really gave it to you full tilt boogie. So think about your list and what it is there. This is a recording. You can watch it again. And so thankful that you are here with me today. And, it's good to see you. I hope that you remember out of this, the number one thing I want you to take away with this today is that you are the asset and that a company is looking to hire you as their asset. So we'll see you again. All right. Bye.